Hey, I'm Eliza, and I'm here to combine two great loves of mine, literature and comparing things! Which honestly makes it really hard to date me because you're almost always being compared to someone else, while referencing literary stud muffins at the same time. Sorry. Today we're going to be discussing Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight by Alexandra Fuller and The House at Sugar Beach by Helene Cooper. Yeah. These are both kick-ass books that you all should check out. But today, I'm going to be comparing the similarities and differences between these two amazing books. First, both of them are set in Africa. One in Liberia, and one just all over the place. Secondly, both are memoirs talking about their childhoods in Africa during the 70s and 80s. Okay, now we're getting to the differences. Helene Cooper is technically black, and Alexandra Fuller is technically white. But both of them were born in Africa and later moved to America, technically making both of them now African Americans. Anyways, Helene Cooper's story is more of a riches to rags sort of story, while Alexandra Fuller's is more of a rags to rags. But you shouldn't worry about either of them considering they're both New York Times best-selling authors. The House at Sugar Beach depicts a young Helene Cooper growing up in a wealthy Congo family in Monrovia, Liberia. Along with owning every Jackson's 5 and Temptation album, Helene also lives in one of the only air-conditioned houses in the city. But as a teenager, Helene is forced to leave the country because of a violent and bloody civil war. Conflicted with the feelings of her past, Helene doesn't return to Liberia until her mid-30s to find her long-lost sister. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight seems completely different from The House at Sugar Beach. Alexandra Fuller technically grew up in a shack. She seemed to always be covered in fleas and smelling of rotten food, and dogs were everywhere scratching, and it just wasn't a very clean place. Not to mention Alexandra's mom is a raving drunk who just went completely insane. Picture your mom naked, dancing in front of a window with a glass of brandy and a cigarette. Also covered in fleas, may I mind you? Ew! Now, Alexandra Fuller doesn't come to America until she gets married, which is in her mid-20s. But Alexandra continues to visit Africa all the time to visit her family, despite her horrible upbringing. Now, this differs from Helene because she doesn't visit her home house until 20 years after she's left Africa, even though she grew up in a mansion with air conditioning. Granted, Helene's departure was a lot more violent and hasty than Alexandra Fuller's. But I think if you add up all the horrible events in Alexandra Fuller's life and compare it to all of the bad things that happened in Helene Cooper's life, technically Alexandra Fuller should be way more messed up than Helene. And never visit Africa again! But now the question of initial personality starts to come into play. Now what the reader has to infer, because they're not actually told, is that Alexandra Fuller made peace with her past way before she left Africa. And it just took Helene a little bit longer. This is why I find both these books so incredibly interesting, along with extremely fun to compare. Neither of these books are biographies, they are memoirs, which makes them extremely personal and is allowing the reader inside their soul. Thanks for listening, and let me be your substitute SparkNotes.